It's a way of life that dates back more than 2,000 years.
The dances and the songs tell the stories.
The stories of Point Hope, an Inupiaq village of less than 700 residents, located 200 miles north of the Arctic Circle. A spit of land said to be the longest continuously inhabited area in North America.
We've been right here, hunting, gathering, dancing, singing. For thousands of years, the history is here.
For more than 2,500 years, several different settlements on the northwestern edge of Alaska have called this land home, taking advantage of its abundant resources.
The seal, the beluga, the walrus. This is our way of living. This is the way we feed our communities.
All are vital to the survival of the Inupiaq in a subsistence way of life. But the bowhead whale is among the most important.
The whale is our identity as a people. You know, it makes us who we are.
Identity and a strong traditional and cultural presence in Alaska for centuries.
They're our shelter, our clothing, our food, our spirituality as a people. Without the animals, we're nothing.
A spirituality and identity that can be felt and seen just about everywhere. And despite the fact that most of the original village was lost.
97% of the village is out in the ocean. It's eroding.
Strong winds and rough seas pummel the coast daily, claiming the Inupiaq's land. However, those same rough seas also provide for life here. It's a strong bond the community shares and celebrates with the whale.
We celebrate the fact that it gives itself up to us so that we can continue the cycle.
Despite the constant erosion, a few cultural sites remain, like the ceremonial feasting grounds where the residents of Point Hope come together for 3 days every June to celebrate. And there's their whale graveyard, where bowheads' jawbones line the horizon, the larger bones serving as headstones for whaling captains that have passed away.
This is a whale, a sigalok, an ice cellar.
Despite age-old traditions like these, the Inupiaq are also incredibly adaptive, as they rely on earthly provisions for nearly everything, including the permafrost underground. Ice cellars have been carved to store each family's meat.
This was Daryl Frankson's ice cellar, a whaling captain that passed away several years ago.
And cellars are passed down through generations, some hundreds of years old.
Down inside the ice cellar, the walls are lined with hundreds of bowhead whale jawbones. The floor is lined with whale blubber that's dripping fat onto the ground. It's created a pool about a couple inches deep.
Family traditions, culture, experience, and community run deep. The one common denominator they share is the whale. Residents here say decades of commercial whaling during the 1800s drastically reduced the number of bowhead whales and nearly wiped out this community.
The population dropped down to 126 from a population that used to be well over 4,000 people right here in Point Hope.
But tough challenges are something the Inupiaq are used to. Life is a cycle in this deeply rooted native community, and learning to adapt to change is a necessity. There are only a few constants here: tradition, culture, and the whale.
We have people in the outside world that would love to stop our whaling.
It doesn't need to be done. It's no longer necessary.
It's their food security, but it's also their cultural identity.
It's an emotional debate that is pitting even environmentalists on opposite sides of the issue.
There's no reason for it anymore. I mean, to claim traditions, well, come up with a new tradition. You know, teach your kids something new, something that's helpful, something that will be sustainable and last them through their generations.
But here in Alaska, environmentalists who have witnessed the tradition behind the hunt have a much different view.
Commercial whaling is all about killing whales for profit, and it's completely different from subsistence, where the indigenous communities that practice subsistence whaling have a spiritual connection to the whale.
And whalers say they closely regulate themselves within their community and through the Alaska Eskimo Whaling Commission. Quotas are determined by the population of each village and need.
We don't look at it as a rate of return. It is to feed our community. And that's the biggest thrill and honor that a whaling captain has, is to receive a whale through their boat and distribute it to the people.
In fact, the International Whaling Commission recognizes that Aboriginal hunting is totally different in nature than commercial, citing the objectives of subsistence whaling as to ensure risks of extinction are not seriously increased by whaling, enable native people to hunt at levels appropriate to their cultural and nutritional needs, and move populations towards and then maintain them at healthy levels.
We are not to hunt any game in our life that would deplete the source. Take only what you need and let the ones pass.
It's all part of the tradition, culture, identity that's been a way of life dating back thousands of years.
All animals are sacred to us. They give themselves to us so we can survive.
The cycle of life, passed down from one generation to another. A life centered around the whale.
That is our garden out there. That sustains our livelihood. And the whale is the core of our culture.
But still, for decades, it's that traditional way of life that has sparked controversy around the globe. The 1970s saw the beginning of the anti-whaling movement.
We have seen the day when the International Whaling Commission, which we didn't even know existed, imposed a moratorium on whaling.
After scientists claimed the bowhead was near extinction, that's when indigenous whalers formed the Alaska Eskimo Whaling Commission to educate the world that people in the 21st century still live the subsistence lifestyle.
We proved to them that we can manage our own source without depleting the source.
In recent years, the National Marine Fisheries Service shows that the bowhead population is growing at a rate of more than 3% per year. But despite the continued growth, with an estimated 14,000 bowheads, controversy still remains.
Well, they never stop. That's their livelihood. What they do in life is try to, say quit whaling.
If the oceans die, we die.
One organization that would like to see the end of indigenous whaling is Sea Shepherd, a marine wildlife conservation group that says it's time for a change.
People say, oh, we want to pass down our traditions to the next generations. Well, eventually, there's not going to be anything.
Citing lack of need and tradition as part of the problem.
They use buoys and rifles and harpoons to kill them, and it's a long and painful death for the whale. I mean, sometimes it'll take up to 12 hours for them to die.
They believe that the whale gives itself to them, and because of that, they honor and respect the whale through the entire process, and then they celebrate the whales that they do take throughout the entire year.
But for now, the debate goes on. And just as they have done for thousands of years,
we call ourselves people of the whale.
The identity of the first people of Alaska will continue to live on through their rich culture and sometimes controversial ancient traditions.
It's the culture, it's the root of this community.
Unpredictable, unforgiving, unrelenting. When it comes to the weather and ice on Alaska's northwestern edge, there's no question who's in charge.
It's all up to nature. It's all up to nature.
For weeks, whaling crews in Point Hope have been forced to put the hunt on hold, as brutal winds have held the whaling season hostage.
They want to go out, but nothing we can do about the weather or ice.
Standing by patiently, waiting for Mother Nature to cooperate.
we got south wind, obviously our water ain't going to be open and we won't be able to be hunting. So we rely on our north wind to be out here to whale.
Wind is only one of the elements of danger when it comes to whaling in the Arctic.
You gotta know what you're doing.
Ice is something that is constantly being monitored, as life and death situations can arise at a moment's notice.
Yeah, the ice is getting thin. A lot thinner than the earlier years that I was out there. Yeah, the ice conditions are real scarce now.
But for this subsistence community that relies so heavily on the bowhead whale for its survival, the reward is worth the risk, as it always has been for thousands of years and many generations of Inupiaq here.
It's a way of life of how we were taught to survive in this harsh climate.
From April to mid-June each year,
The spring brings food to our land.
the bowhead whale migrates from the Bering Sea to Canada's Northwest Territories, following open leads in the ice.
The whale is the center of our lives.
But whaling is never easy, and there are no guarantees. Perfect weather and sea conditions must merge with opportunity. Days turn to nights. Time is running out. And the possibility of a whaling season lost begins to set in.
There's a lot of pressure on each whaling captain and their crew. The bowhead whale is a vital food source for our community.
But after weeks of waiting, the winds of fortune finally change. And just like that,
It just opened up, I guess.
whaling crews must jump into action in order to take advantage of whatever opportunity Mother Nature allows. There's a blessing of the boat, and crews quickly head out in tandem onto the ice.
It's our Arctic highway to the open lead.
The process of breaking trail begins.
You have to make your trail. It's a tough thing you have to do, but it has to be done.
What has to be done means hours of nonstop smashing, chopping, picking, and clearing large pieces of ice to clear the way and create a smooth trail.
You got to make it reasonably smooth, otherwise you could damage snow machines or the boat or the sleds.
No matter the task, one eye must always be trained for danger lying beneath their feet.
You never know what could happen. Take the wrong step, you could fall through.
And the eye on the horizon to make sure a powerful predator, the polar bear, doesn't catch them off guard. Hours later, once the journey to the lead is complete, the hunt can finally begin.
It's a pretty good feeling. I mean, when you're doing it in the moment of time, you're not thinking. You got one goal on your mind. You want to try to get a whale for the community.
That goal has been shared for centuries by whalers here in these same waters. Ancestors have passed down skills from generation to generation.
It's a real spiritual connection when we're out there, and it just livens the spirit of who we are as Inupiaq people.
A lively spirit is one thing. Patience is another.
Sometimes it could be a whole week, sometimes it could be 2 hours.
Yeah, sometimes it could be right now. Never know, we just never know.
And not knowing is the hardest part. Will this Inupiaq community have enough provisions to survive the seasons ahead? Will the bowhead whale elude Point Hope's experienced captains? The only answer is patience.